Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In our last class, we discussed about the potential field of a point charge. If we have a point charge, how can we find the potential field due to that point charge? In today's class, we will discuss about the potential field of a system of charges. It means that if we have a number of point charges, or if we have a distribution of charges, how can we find the potential field due to those number of charges or the distribution of charges? So the potential at a point has been defined as the work done in bringing a unit positive charge from the zero reference to that point. And we have suspected that this work and hence the potential is independent of the path taken. If it were not, potential would not be a very useful concept. Let us now prove our assertion. We shall do so by beginning with the potential field of the single point charge, for which we showed in the last section the independence with regard to the path. Noting that the field is linear with respect to the charge, so that superposition is applicable. It will then follow that the potential of a system of charges has a value at any point which is independent of the path taken in carrying the test charge to that point. We already have discussed that these points that the potential actually doesn't depend upon the path followed. It means that if we are taking a unit charge from infinity to a point where we want to find out the potential, so it will not depend upon the path followed, that which path we are actually following. And another thing is that the potential field is actually linear with respect to the charge. If we look at the equation of the potential due to a single point charge, if we look at this formula, we can see that the potential field is linear with respect to the charge. The potential field is linear with respect to the charge. So if we have a number of charges, if we have a system of charges, we can apply the superposition. Thus the potential field of a single point charge, which we shall identify as Q1. So if we have a single point charge Q1 that is located at R1, at a distance R1 from the origin, and if we want to find the potential at a point which is at a distance R from the origin, so what will be the potential at a point R due to the point charge Q1 that is located at R1? So it involves the only distance R minus R1 from Q1 to the point at R where we are establishing the value of the potential for a zero reference at infinity. मतलब अगर हम infinity को as zero reference consider कर ले, so we have VR is equal to Q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R minus R1. Let's see. Let's suppose we have this origin O, and let's suppose we have a point charge which is placed at this point, and the point charge is Q1. So the location of this Q1 with respect to the origin is actually this, and the distance is represented by a vector R1. So if we have a point charge that is located at a distance R1 from the origin, and if we want to find the potential at this point, which is located at a distance r from the origin. So the distance which is taken into account is actually this distance, and this distance is r minus r1. Distance is actually r minus r1. R, if we talk about the vectors, so if this vector is r1, this vector is r, so this vector will be r minus r1, because we know that a plus b is equal to c, so b will be equal to c minus a, so this distance will be r minus r1. So how can we find the potential at this point? So the potential at this point is, let's suppose we are, so actually we have to bring some unit charge from infinity, which we consider as a zero reference, to this point. So the work done in bringing a unit charge from infinity to this point is actually the potential at this point, because this point is actually in the field of a charge q1. तो हम क्या करते हैं कि इन्फिनिटी से एक यूनिट चार्ज, एक यूनिट पॉजिटिव चार्ज इसी पॉइंट पे लेके आएंगे इनसाइड द फील्ड ऑफ द पॉइंट चार्ज q1. But remember that this potential actually doesn't depend upon the path followed. If I use this path, or if I use this path, or if I use this path, it only depends upon this distance, the distance between the source point and the field point, the distance between the source point and the field point. So the potential at this point will be equal to q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r1. So the potential at a point r will be equal to q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r1, and this potential is actually a scalar field. Now if we have a number of charges, let's suppose we have one charge that is at a distance r1 from the origin. So the potential will be equal to q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r1. Let's suppose we have another point charge q2 that is at a distance r2 from the origin. So the potential at this point due to the charge q2 will be equal to q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r2. If we have another point charge q3 which is at a distance r3 from the origin, so the potential at this point due to the point charge q3 will be equal to q3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r3. So if we want to find the potential at this point due to all these charges, due to q1, q2 and q3, so we will apply the superposition. So the potential at point r due to a system of charges will be equal to q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r1 plus q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r2 plus q3 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r3. So the potential due to two charges Q1 at R1 and Q2 at R2 is a function only of R minus R1 and R minus R2. The distances from Q1 and Q2 to the field point. We have the source points where the sources are located, where Q1 and Q2 are located, and we have the field point where we want to find out the potential. So the potential at a distance r from the origin will be equal to Q1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r1 plus Q2 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r2. Continuing to add charges, we find that the potential due to endpoint charges is actually Vr is equal to Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3 plus Qn. And if we look at the summation, so the potential at point r will be equal to Qm divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus rm, where we have the summation sign and m will range from 1 to n because we have endpoint charges. So we will have n distances, r minus r1 plus r minus r2 plus r minus r3 and so on. Now if each point charge is represented as a small element of a continuous volume charge distribution, it means that if we have a volume charge distribution and each point charge is represented as a small element so if Q1 is considered as a small element of a continuous volume charge distribution, so we can write Q1 as rho v, the volume charge density at R1, into the differential volume element del V1. Q2 as rho v, the volume charge density at R2, into the differential volume element del V2. And similarly, if we denote the nth point charge, or if we denote the nth point charge as a small element of a continuous volume charge distribution, so it can be written as the volume charge density at a distance Rn into del Vn, the differential volume del Vn. So as we allow the number of elements to become infinite, here we are using the summation sign, but if the number of elements become infinite, we obtain the integral expression. The summation is replaced by the integral sign, so it is actually a multiple integral because it is a volume integral. Rho v at r dash actually represents the volume charge density at r dash. dv dash actually represents the differential volume element, dv dash, and the combination of rho v at r dash into dv dash actually represents the differential amount of charge. Rho v at r dash into dv dash actually represents the differential amount of charge, because we know that the volume charge density is the charge per unit volume. So the differential amount of charge will be equal to the volume charge density at r dash into the differential volume element dv dash. So generally we can say that Vr will be equal to the volume integral of rho v at r dash into dv dash divided by 4 pi epsilon naught r minus r dash. We will take the distance r minus r dash because we are now considering the small element of a continuous volume charge distribution at r dash. So the potential will be equal to rho v at r dash divided into dv dash divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into r minus r dash, whereas rho v represents the volume charge density at r dash, dv represents the differential volume element, and the combination of rho v and dv dash actually represents the differential amount of charge at r dash. And the potential Vr is determined with respect to the zero reference potential at infinity, and as an exact measure of the work done in bringing a unit charge from infinity to the field point at R where we are finding the potential. Here we talked about the volume charge distribution. Now if we have the line charge distribution or the surface charge distribution, so this volume integral will actually be converted into the line integral or the surface integral. Here we actually discussed about the volume charge distribution. If we have a volume charge distribution, so we can represent the potential by using this formula. Now if we have the line charge distribution or the surface charge distribution, so if the charge distribution takes the form of a line charge or a surface charge, the integral is along the line or over the surface. So if we consider the line charge distribution, the formula will be like this. And if we consider the surface charge distribution, so we will use this formula. The most general expression for potential is obtained by combining the above equations for the volume charge distribution, for the line charge distribution, or for the surface charge distribution. Now if we compare this result, the potential at a point R due to a line charge distribution or due to a surface charge distribution or due to volume charge distribution, or simply if we say that if we compare the potential at a distance R due to a continuous volume charge distribution with the electric field intensity. This is actually the formula for the electric field intensity. So if we look at this formula and if we look at this formula, this is actually a scalar field. The integral is actually a scalar integral, whereas this integral is actually a vector integral because the electric field intensity here is a vector quantity. Apart from this, the potential field varies with inverse of R minus R dash, whereas the electric field intensity varies as the inverse square relationship, R minus R dash whole square. So the potential field is actually inversely proportional to the distance from the source point to the field point, whereas the electric field intensity is actually inversely proportional to the square of the distance from the source point to the field point. To illustrate the use of one of these potential integrals, let's suppose we have a line charge in the form of a ring. We have a line charge in the form of a ring, and let us find the potential on the z-axis for a uniform line charge. We have a uniform line charge in the form of a ring having the line charge density rho L, and we want to find the potential along the z-axis. So working with, we have taken this path, we have taken the line charge in the form of a ring, so dl dash, if we consider a differential length, dl dash will be equal to rho d phi, and the rho is actually a, the rho is a, this rho is actually a, so it will be a d phi dash. R is equal to z az, this is actually R, we are taking this point, and R dash is equals to rho a rho, so it can be written as a rho. So R minus R dash, the magnitude, it will be equal to a square plus z square under the root. So if we use this formula, V will be equal to rho L divided by 4 pi epsilon naught a square plus z square under the root into a d phi dash. So it will result in rho L a divided by 2 epsilon naught a square plus z square under the root. The potential field of a ring of uniform line charge density is easily obtained from V is equals to rho L R dash dl dash divided by 4 pi epsilon naught R minus R dash by using this formula. We have a line charge So rho L divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, rho L divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, dl dash is actually a d phi dash divided by r minus r dash, the magnitude. This is actually the magnitude of r minus r dash. So we will get the potential along the z-axis due to a uniform line charge in the form of a ring. Now here are some important points. If we consider the zero reference at infinity, then the potential due to a single point charge is the work done in carrying a unit positive charge from infinity to the point at which we desire the potential, and the work is independent of the path chosen between those 2 points. ये point already हमने रिखर के साथ discuss कर भी लिया है. The point number 2, the potential field in the presence of a number of point charges is the sum of individual potential fields arising from each point charge. अभी हमने ये point भी prove कर लिया that the potential field in the presence of a number of point charges is actually the sum of individual potential fields arising from each charge. Similarly, if we have a continuous volume charge distribution or surface charge distribution or line charge distribution, so the potential due to a number of point charges or any continuous charge distribution may therefore be found by carrying a unit charge from infinity to the point in question along any path we choose. हम क्या करेंगे कि एक यूनिट चार्ज इंफिनिटी से उसी पॉइंट पे लेके आएंगे जहां पे हमने पोटेंशियल फाइंड आउट करनी है. In other words, the expression for potential when we consider the zero reference at infinity will be equal to VA is equal to minus E dot dl and from infinity to A, क्योंकि हम infinity से एक पॉइंट उसी पॉइंट A पे लेके आएंगे, infinity से एक यूनिट चार्ज उसी पॉइंट A पे लेके आएंगे, तो वो जितना वर्क परफॉर्म करेगा, जितना वर्क डन होगा, तो उसी पॉइंट पे that will actually be the potential. Similarly, if we talk about the potential difference, it will be equal to B to A, because now we are taking the potential difference between 2 points. If we talk about the potential, जब हम potential की बात करते हैं तो हम unit charge को infinity से लेके आते हैं, लेकिन जब हम potential difference की बात करते हैं, so the potential difference is actually between the 2 points inside the field of a point charge, or a line charge, or a surface charge, or volume charge distribution. So VAV will be equal to VA minus VB. So the infinity will become point B, and that will be inside the field. Is not dependent on the path chosen for line integral, regardless of the source of the field. This result is often stated concisely by recognizing that no work is done in carrying the unit charge along any closed path. ये पॉइंट ऑलरेडी हमने डिस्कस भी कर लिया है कि जब हम एक क्लोज्ड पाथ पे एक यूनिट चार्ज मूव करते हैं तो कोई वर्क डन परफॉर्म नहीं होता, क्योंकि जिस पॉइंट से हम स्टार्ट होते हैं उसी पॉइंट पे हम वापस आते हैं. सो द क्लोज्ड लाइन इंटीग्रल ऑफ द इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड इंटेंसिटी इज ऑलवेज इक्वल टू 0. Like we have proved in our last lecture that if we have a line charge that is placed along the z-axis, अगर एक line charge है जो z-axis पे placed है, that is placed along the z-axis, if we have a line charge having the line charge density rho L, and if we want to calculate the work done along the path, along the circular path, then the work done along this circular path will always be equal to 0. The work done will be equal to 0. So it means that the closed line integral of the electric field intensity is 0 for this path. So E dot dl, the closed line integral for this circular path is actually 0, because जहां से हम start होते हैं हम वापस उसी पॉइंट पे आते हैं, तो कोई वर्क डन परफॉर्म नहीं होता, and we are taking a closed path. So This result is often stated concisely by recognizing that no work is done in carrying the unit charge around any closed path. So this is an important relation, that the closed line integral of the electric field intensity is always equal to 0. Whereas the small circle is placed on the integral sign to indicate the closed nature of the path. And such fields which satisfy this equation are actually called the conservative fields. So we have the conservative fields and we have the non-conservative fields. Conservative fields are those fields which actually satisfy this equation. It means that for the conservative fields, the closed line integral of their electric field intensity will always be equal to 0. Similarly, the non-conservative fields are those fields which do not satisfy this equation. Remember that static fields are actually the conservative fields, because for the static fields this relation is actually valid. And we will see in the next chapters that time varying fields are actually the non-conservative fields. Time varying fields are those fields which change with time. Time varying fields are those fields which change with time, because we know that the time varying electric field gave rise to the magnetic field. The time varying electric field gave rise to the magnetic field. So this equation is not valid for the time varying fields. So such fields which do not satisfy this relation or this equation is actually called the non-conservative fields. Whereas those fields which satisfy this equation are called the conservative fields. So remember that static fields are the conservative fields, because for the static fields the closed line integral of their electric field intensity will always be equal to 0. So this was all about the potential field of a system of charges and the conservative property. If you have any question, you can ask. Thank you.